Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Steffen, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dreamdata.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dreamdata employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations,
social selling maybe. Thanks for tuning in again to another live session here. Today we're going to talk about account-based marketing, which is probably not new for most people who actually said yes to attend this. But what I think is most of us have heard a lot of different story about what it is. Today we actually have somebody who actually practices it every day with us, which is Vlad. I'll give you the word in a minute. But I forced Vlad to think through what are the unconventional things you can do in ABM instead of just going through what are kind of the regular things that you would typically talk about. As usual, just treat this as a conversation you're part of yourself. So if you have any questions, you want to interrupt us, just type in the question on LinkedIn and we'll pull in that question and go through it. But Vlad, just to warm up, maybe you can just explain a little bit quickly about your background and what you do in your day-to-day job at Full Funnel.
All right, thank you very much, and really amazing to be here live with our audience. I'm a co-founder together with Andres Inkiewicz. I'm co-founder of Full Funnel, fullfunnel.io. And what we do is we work with B2B tech companies with high ACV, with high deal size. And we help them essentially drive demand and land opportunities with their target accounts. And the way that we like to explain this is at least 20% plus of the target account. So not the volume, but the quality, which ABM really is what ABM is all about. I'm a co-founder, so together with Andre, I do a little bit of everything. We create a lot of content, as you probably know. We are creating products. We are running, as we are a consulting and training company. We are running training. We are running consulting, do a lot of stuff, a lot of events, speaking, doing events ourselves all the time. And that's kind of how my everyday looks like. So really happy to be here. Thanks again for having me.
Awesome, Vlad. And maybe just let's start out with that soft definition of what you already said a little bit. What does ABM mean for you, and which type of company should really be considering it, according to your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, to put it very simply, if you are selling a high value product, if you're selling 5 or 6 figure annual deal size, you don't need a lot of clients, right? But you need the right type of clients. And if you look at quote unquote traditional ways of generating leads and opportunities, you, depending on how people do this, very often you might end up with smaller deals coming from marketing, right? Coming inbound or coming from marketing, or it's going to be very hard for you, or maybe if you win the other deals, it's going to be very high cost of acquisition. So what account-based marketing essentially helps you do is be very targeted. So it's all about stacking the odds in your favor of landing, let's say, ideal customer profile. You're normally going to use that to land upper mid-market or enterprise opportunities and deals. I think if you want to define what it is, it's just a set of it's marketing in the end. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they think about ABM, they're thinking about, or even a lot of sales activity, right? And we're going to give a lot of examples, so I don't think I need to go into that. Maybe just to say one more thing. Sometimes it's easier to say what it is not, so for people to understand. A lot of people also think about it as, either display ads or some sort of creative outreach, or just a new name for lead generation, which is more focused, right? And it's also actually, if you think about it, it's not just about winning net new accounts, winning new customers, but you can actually run ABM campaigns to expand or accelerate deals. You can do this to renew contracts. You can basically apply to any stage of actually your sales funnel.
Super nice. So without further ado, let's get to your first unconventional ABM tactic.
Yeah. So when you reached out to me, what are we going to talk about? Okay, let's do it unconventional. So you have to make me think. And a lot of these tactics are unconventional simply because they are not how most companies do ABM. The first one is about leveraging customer advocacy. And what I mean by customer advocacy is simply turning your best customers into your marketers, into your best marketers. And so how can you use this and why would you do this? Well, essentially, I think the best way to do this is to accelerate your pipeline. I think a lot of the a lot of the prospects that you may have in your pipeline will be either on the fence or will need some extra social proof, or just like will have questions they might not ask you directly. And so bringing in one of your customers to help them answer the questions, build a social proof, can be very helpful to accelerate those deals, right? And you can do this in different ways. I mean, obviously, like what we all do is having, customers that we use for reference calls and all of these things. But like one of the plays that we did was actually running a webinar together with the customers. And it's not the webinar itself, it's always, and maybe this is something that you will kind of see as a pattern here. I'll just maybe go through the different steps that I would suggest you do if you want to do that kind of a campaign. You have to look at the full funnel. I mean, you have to look at it from the top to bottom, right? So like, how would you do something like, well, first of all, you have to have that highly engaged customers with good results. They should fit your ICP. They should be like, a really good representation of the kind of deal you want to replicate. You want to also, of course, have the right person inside of the company who knows a lot about the project, who is, of course, they need to be a very satisfied customer as well. And ideally, they're going to be somebody who is very comfortable speaking, on a webinar or online. Yeah. If they're active on whatever your target social networks are, even better, right? So they will help you kind of promote that and all of it. The next thing you want to do is you want to plan what we call like a live case study. And what I mean, like a lot of companies, when they create case studies, they usually create this like, one pagers, like we all see that on the website. It's kind of like checking that. We do that as well. Okay, I will be careful about what I say about it. But essentially, when I mention case studies, what I mean is really diving deep. It's really a little bit a guide and a case study, so that you really want to help the potential customers see how implementation looks like, the behind the scenes, so they can really, really, really understand like what it takes, who needs to be involved, what kind of help do I get from you, when can I expect what kind of results, like a lot of details that people who are actually have the intention to buy, are thinking about, have questions, they can't really answer those questions. The best way to answer them is just seeing how it looks like for somebody who is exactly the same situation as you, right? Yeah. And so that's what I mean. And so, like, for example, when we run this, we run it as a webinar, we run a couple of others as a podcast. We do our podcasts live. So we just invite one of our customer to a podcast, or we create a webinar. If you're doing it as a webinar, which is like the example that I wanted to share, you want to give, like, the customer should be speaking half of the time. You can speak, let's say, another half, a little bit less. And the idea is that they are going to speak about their situation and the whole implementation process, the results and everything. You can guide them a little bit, but you need to share also educational stuff. So you need to share them a framework. They should walk away like knowing something, like learning. So again, think about it as a mix between a case study and a guide, right? And
I think it will be extremely trustworthy that somebody that actually pay for your service is actually also willing to go on camera and say that they're actually paying for your
live.
And live, even.
I think that's another benefit, because it's like extra difficult or extra high threshold for people to do that. So like the impression perception, and the truth is that this is like, okay, they're so happy with you and your solution that they're willing to do that. In addition, I think it's also like really cool because they will be able to share things or to answer questions in a way that you will never be able to do that, right? You're always kind of solution biased, you're using a different terminology. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean, right?
If we as a vendor say it's an easy setup, then they're like, sure, it's an easy setup. But if the client says it's an easy setup, it's something completely different.
It was very cool. Like, for example, during that webinar, like also he just opened up his how they set up their HubSpot, like showing things that I wouldn't be able to show, for example, right? I can show how we do it, but like exactly how they set it up. Also, like how did they like then implement in the rest of the team, like a lot of like these details that don't really come up in a normal case study or in a webinar that maybe you would organize, etc.
Yeah, beautiful.
Now,
I really like that one. Is that point one, or is there more in that bucket?
yeah. Like I
Okay.
said, like there's always like you always have to think about how can I close the loop, because it's not just about doing that. That wouldn't be ABM. That would be just customer advocacy, right? What makes this an ABM is that you want to work with sales to identify. First of all, you want to identify deals from your pipeline that fit this ICP, that would be helpful, of course, for them to join this webinar to accelerate that deal. And of course, you can also invite other engaged accounts, right? You don't have to only invite people from the pipeline, accounts from the pipeline, but you can also look at other sources of intent data, just a big fancy word to say, for example, accounts that are visiting like your key pages on your maybe website, or that are engaged otherwise on social, coming to your events, reading your content, whatever, like the kind of information that you have about their interest, engagement, buying process, whatever. So you will know that, hopefully you will have this information so that you are going to invite them as well. So I think like this play makes most sense for people who are already in the pipeline, but also anybody who is a little bit more advanced in their buying process. I think this makes a lot of sense. Now, another little thing that you can do, it can help you get better results. And you always think like, how can I like maximize the results here? Is once you're inviting people, first of all, you want to invite them one by one. This is not like, of course, you can run whatever kind of promotional campaign for that, but these kind of like engaged accounts, you want to do it one-on-one. Second, you can ask them also to share questions beforehand, which is going to help you run a better webinar, but also help you in a follow-up. You will run your webinar, you will do it, you will engage the audience as much as possible. There are all sorts of things you can do it to make it more like you're doing a lot, like interacting, engaging the audience, asking them to participate, ask questions, etc. And then after that, what you want to do is also create what we call like a content hub. And it's basically whatever tools that you use to share content with prospects during the sales. We use Paperflight. There's tons of these kind of tools that allow you to create a personalized collection and share it with your prospects. And also allow you to have content analytics. That's really important, because in the next step, what you want to share, obviously, I don't know, the recording of the webinar, the slides, and then also you can share more information about your product or any like bottom of the funnel content that will help you like get people over the fence, answer any questions that I might have, like comparison sheets, like specific benefits, maybe some more information about the product, whatever it's relevant at that stage, right? And you want to share that. And if you have asked your attendees to provide questions, they provided you questions, you can actually create personalized for them content hub with exact responses to those questions, right? So you can make it even more personalized. So instead of following up after the webinar saying, hey, you want to book a demo, what you do is you give them extra resources, right? And so the mindset here is always like, I want to offer the buyer the opportunity to take the next step while leaving them in control, right? So you want more, here is more, but I'm not gonna like push you. It's like the appropriate thing. It's like you go out in a bar and you meet somebody, you don't want to ask them to marry you. You may want to ask them for the first date, right? Or to get a coffee with you or something like that. And so just to close the loop, so you have your content hub, you're sharing that. This may be like one-on-one personalized. So of course you're following up. What I like to do is I like to go for a walk and record like one-on-one little video messages to thank people for attending webinar, asking feedback, make sure they got the content hub, you can distribute it in other ways. And then after that, you check the analytics. So you kind of flip the outbound on inbound. So they got your message, they are now taking the action themselves. They want to check it out, and you can use that as an additional source of intent data, and you can run very personalized and very timely follow-up. So let's say they checked that presentation or whatever case study, whatever they checked, and they spend most time looking at, I don't know, a slide or a page about campaign orchestration. Now I can like very timely reach out to them and say, hey, thanks a lot for checking our case study. I was wondering what you thought about it. By the way, a lot of people ask me about campaign orchestration. If that's something that's also of interest to you, I'll be happy to walk you through how we did it for Dreamdata, right? And Dreamdata, they're a similar company. So
Yeah.
And this is how you start to close the loop. And you can actually even, like, I mean, in some cases, I mean, it makes sense also to have your salespeople call them up. Like, you can follow up, digitally. You can also just give them a call. It's not a cold call, just having that kind of conversation.
Vlad, I think you might have to send me an invoice just for on how we can optimize how we do these lives as well, because there's already a lot of stuff that we can. Alberto, I know you're listening, so I hope you take notes. It's really good. We've tried it a little bit with the people we invite to this as well. We try to make it the invite only go to people who have like I did. Do you have ABM in your title? And are you a mutual connection between me and Vlad? Then you should get an invite to this event. We've not really rolled with it afterwards about how can we then like follow up. But really good, Vlad. As I can see.
I think also, like, for this live, if you're not selling an ABM solution, it's a little bit different. So if you had this conversation maybe with your customer, which would be amazing, right? Or just like on a topic that may be closer to, like attribution or whatever topic that is much closer to your product, could be even more relevant to implement this playbook.
Super nice. So that was point 1, which was really extensive. I really appreciate it. For you guys who are listening, make sure you type in your questions and exploit the time that Vlad is giving to us. But let's go on to number 2, Vlad. And which one is that?
The one that I was thinking of sharing is I mentioned a couple of things during the first playbook, and I mentioned, for example, intent data, and wanted to kind of expand on that. And the playbook that I wanted to share is something we ran a crazy experiment. We had a live session with Andy Culligan was speaking at our summit, and Andre said to him, "Hey, Andy, let's do something different. Let's not just do yet another slides and the talking head stuff. Let's try to run a live campaign," he said. And so we were there. We didn't have any plan. We didn't prepare this in any way. We were just there. Okay, so let's run a live campaign. We had 50 minutes.
What was actually the headline for this topic again, Vlad? Sorry for interrupting you.
What was
the headline of this?
So the headline is how to create net new opportunities with accounts that you didn't have it. They're not in your pipeline. Net new opportunities using intent data and warm up. We call those like warm up and ABM plays, right?
Nice. And then you started doing a live campaign during an event.
Nice. So to make this, why do I say this? Why do I mention this? Other than we managed to actually land an opportunity within 50 minutes, a tier 1 opportunity for us. I think it may be somebody I think they were Plan Day from Sweden, I want to say.
Denmark.
Plan Day, them? Yeah, that doesn't matter, right?
They're all
anyhow.
So they're from Denmark.
And they are. I think they knew you. It doesn't matter. But essentially, we were like put on the spot. So how can you increase your chance of getting any response or getting any? So first, that's the intent data. So we found accounts with intent. What do I mean by that? So for example, the easiest thing was, okay, we went to Albacross. We use Albacross, whatever tool you use to identify the accounts in your website. So we have a bunch of filters. We want to filter ICP. We want to filter out those companies who spend more time on our website, right? We say like even like 30 minutes or more, right? Because okay, we have a lot of content. And also it's not just about somebody like visiting your blog or reading a couple of blog posts, but actually visiting like relevant pages, whether that's like high intent pages, product, in our case, like our consulting page, or like specific product pages, etc. So we saw this like one account that was like a perfect fit, spent a lot of time, couple of people visiting our websites, and they were reading like stuff about ICP and ABM and visited one of our products about ABM, etc. So it's okay, this is one. So we selected this account, right?
Yeah.
So then we had to run some live research. And what we did is like, okay, so first we already had an idea. Okay, they are looking at ICP, ABM. We checked out the website and so like, okay, what it seems like they recently got an investment. Actually, they were acquired by an accounting software company, like a big accounting software company, and they had some like. It seemed like they had a lot of SMB customers, but they were like pushing this enterprise logo. So we formulated the following hypothesis, and hypothesis was because they are like looking at these, because they were acquired by an accounting software, it's usually like an SMB solution probably the go-to-market was they are going to go after SMBs. You need to go after enterprise. That was our assumption. So you need to make some sort of a hypothesis. You need to do a bit of research, account research.
Yeah.
In the next step, you need to select the buyer. We selected a head of growth. Usually we know like, okay, so we have like detailed description. We know in what type of, for tier one, it's usually either a VP, a CMO, or a head of growth sometimes, which was the exact case here. We checked his profile and we saw again the same pattern. So he had a lot of experience in digital marketing for kind of skills that you normally have for SMB, not so much. So our assumption kind of was validated, like, okay, they're looking to create an ICP because they want to roll out this ABM motion. The next thing, so now we have our buyer, we have our assumptions. So what do you do with that? So the next step, you want to select a warm-up play. A warm-up play, this is a term that we use just to say that you're not reaching out cold, you want to somehow warm them up. And our favorite warm-up plays are things like co-creation. We use co-creation. I'll come back to that, like small events, social engagement, etc. So we said, okay, what we are going to do with this guy is Andre is going to engage him on social, and I'm going to invite him as a guest to our podcast. And so Andre started checking out his profile, and he saw a very interesting comment that our target prospect made on Chris Walker's post. And so he could like respond on that post. And I reached out to him, and I kind of also used the fact, I said, hey, I'm reaching out to you live from a webinar. And and then in the audience, there was also somebody who said, I'll help you out, connect, whatever. And I invited him to a podcast. But I also like used the information that we collected. I said like, okay, you know what? He's, I think I mentioned something like, we can talk about like, introducing ABM motion or something like that, right? Going from SMB to enterprise. I don't know exactly how he positioned it. And actually live, he already got a positive reply. He decided to not only join our podcast, but he actually responding, I was actually looking into you guys and maybe we should book a call and talk about, how you could help us out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so the idea,
really funny.
The idea here is like, if you take a step back, like what did we actually do? First of all, you really need to know your ICP. You really need to, and I know everybody says that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody says that. But what I mean by that is like, we have something like 20, 30 qualification, disqualification criteria that we use to, other than just firmographics, right?
Yeah.
You can have like very specific criteria. Like, I don't know, like for Dreamdata, it's probably some sort of tech stack that they use already, right? I'm sure this like a better fit if they're doing a lot of digital spending, all of these things. I can just imagine. So you can use all of these criteria to really select those accounts. And again, it's all about stacking the odds in your favor. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to do a bit of homework. You need to do research. Like you can't just like be reaching out to people, etc. And second, you need to put marketing into ABM marketing. It's like, of course, this is very targeted. So, and this was a manual play. So the marketing was like social engagement, sharing content through, commenting and all of these things, and actually inviting them to a co-creation, which is what you want to drive this buyer conversation. If you didn't immediately say, hey, I'm actually, would like to hear about how you guys can help us, we would have the continuation of that conversation during the podcast. Of course, we would make it all about them. Yeah. But we could also talk about, the challenges, etc., and get more insight, build a relationship, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And while you talked, I wrote to our product manager to consider putting in the metric of how much time an account spends on our customers' websites, because our script also, tracks users on websites, and we just describe it as 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions. But what if one of your ICPs is spending half an hour on your website yesterday or something like that? That's really good advice.
What you want, how do you score it? You score them by the level of engagement, which is the time, how many people, how many visits, like all of these. Then you score them, of course, ICP match, like how well they match your ICP. Then you score them on account tier. What I mean by that, like the largest, middle, medium, and smallest. And you score them also by intent. Some pages, like if they're just reading like a very popular blog post that have nothing to do, that is very generic post about marketing, there is much less intent than if they're actually checking out your product pages, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we saw with when we put out these benchmarks about customer journeys before the summer, we saw that all the, like, as a channel, things that came from social was by far the slowest, which I think that's because, like, somebody's just following your company, reading your latest blog post and stuff like that, but they're not in market, they're not expressing an actual intent for buying something. They're just, maybe they think your company is cool and they're just following along the ride.
I mean, of course, today everybody needs to always be learning, right? We need to keep ourselves educated. And a lot of people do that by exactly like that. So they like to follow brands that they respect, that they know put out good content. And of course, you've put in so much time. There was unique data in there that it could, like, okay, so this is obviously going to generate a lot of interest from people who are not in the market. It's just, you know it. It's more top of funnel, right?
Extremely nice. Any questions out there from you guys who are listening in? Otherwise, we'll just move into to number 3 here.
This one is about deal expansion, right? And why deal expansion? What I mean by that is you have an existing deal, so the land and expand, some people will call it. So you landed the initial, maybe smaller deal. Now you want to expand it. How can you expand it? You can expand it by, I don't know, it depends on type of product you're selling. Maybe it's about upselling other features, maybe about expanding to other departments, maybe it's expanding to other geographies, whatever it is, right? So it's all about growing your deal size within an existing customer. And again, it's an example of not just landing new opportunities, how using it to do something different. And why as well, I think, when I was speaking to, probably we did more than 70 audits of in-depth audits of B2B marketing processes at companies. And this is something that we often see, that there is a big opportunity, especially high ACV, especially with enterprise accounts. It's not unusual that there is a big opportunity to expand deals and that there is no structured approach to do that. How could you, what kind of playbook could you set up there? That's what it is about. Interesting to go through it?
Yeah, actually, yes, because I just did something yesterday related to this. So I was speaking to our customer, Richard, if you're listening, but he told me that I set up a campaign on LinkedIn where I used matched audiences to select our customers. And then I started a follower campaign where I just wanted to get more followers of Dreamdata within the customers who are already customers of ours. So typically we're just very much living within the marketing and RevOps team. There's no limit to how many users you can have in your account. So why not try to get those people to follow the company? And in my follower campaign, it even says company name is using Dreamdata. Go here to learn more. So I would love to hear kind of how you can kind of unfold and either expand for activity or at best also expand for revenue.
All right, I love it. I'm really curious to hear. I mean, you just launched it yesterday, but you'll let us know how it worked. I think everybody here around the table would like to know that. So this one is again, like, imagine you have a 6-figure deal, like this is one of your best, like, biggest customers, and or maybe it's like high figure, you want to expand it into 6 figures, and you can afford to spend a little bit more time, and you have maybe an account manager there, somebody who is like taking care of that account. And so what you want to do is you want to actually, like you say, okay, your company is using that, but imagine if you had imagine you interviewed your champion, your power users, you got some real, like, insights into the benefits that they're getting from Dreamdata, into the results. You could just, like, basically record these interviews. You could potentially write a complete case study around that, and actually use all of that as collateral that you can promote in other parts of the company to other employees, other departments, etc. Again, it depends. Like, in some cases, there's like a huge opportunity to move into another geography, into another department, for example, depending on kind of solution that you're selling, right? And then another thing you can leverage as well is you can leverage also these common connections, because people normally within the company, especially if they have similar role or maybe they're part of whatever team, they will be connected and can help you get connected to the other, to your target, let's say, target potential buyers within the company. And so what you want to do is then you want to run the campaign like you're running it, but then in addition, you want to be using, maybe excerpts for that interview, maybe promoting the case study, etc. Ideally, if you can also get your champion to organize a webinar or, whatever, like, event that you can then further promote in the company. And again, similar to our first play, you can use the Content Hub, with them, like it's very personal. It's not something that you would use for everybody. It's something that for that specific account. Again, adding that case study, the benefits, but also like you will be asking, you can be like very specific about what kind of value they could get if they would, implement that in whatever department or whatever. Like you can be like very one-on-one precise in the kind of benefits that they would get. And this is a campaign that you could run. It's a one-on-one campaign in this case. You could of course do it for multiple accounts. And some of these things, of course, you could maybe do for other accounts or in similar vertical. So you could like maybe scale it up. But ABM is very often one-on-one, and one-on-one that you can then maybe scale to kind of on the vertical level for the specific type of buyer, specific type of vertical. So the more personalized, the better. And the same way, like in the first play, if people are engaging with the Content Hub, you can of course follow up. You can call them, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah. Dan wrote, how do you reach out, but from marketing? So I guess it's, if I'm interpreting it correctly or wrong, let me know. But I was thinking, I guess it's what you call, did you call it a warm up, Vlad? Kind of, how can marketing help warm up the accounts for the salespeople?
That's I think I get a question.
Yeah.
So there's different things that you can do. I mean, for marketing, obviously what you can do is whatever collateral you have, like in the example that I just shared, creating these interviews, creating this content. You can distribute this content, whether you do it with paid, whether you do it conversational ads, whatever. Like you can distribute this in different ways, right? You can also, it's not forbidden for marketing to talk to prospects. I mean, especially if it is within, let's say, whatever, like I use the podcast, for example. What you can do is create an article or market research. I mean, these are examples. So kind of a write-up article, I don't know, like 5 things I learned by talking to 5 SaaS CMOs, whatever, like the 5 habits of highly effective SaaS CMOs, I learned by talking to whatever, right? So you can actually create some content, use co-creation, create some content and reach out to them to basically, have a chat. And by the way, ABM, the second part of this answer is to this question, the answer to this question is ABM. You cannot run ABM just for marketing. I mean, ABM is a sales and marketing play. If you're trying to do these campaigns and you're not aligned with sales, you don't have anybody from sales who is committed there to help you, so which means of course that you have to like clearly debrief them about what they can expect, what they should be doing, etc. Really need that close collaboration. It's not going to work, honestly. How can you reach out? Well, you can work with sales to reach out. In some companies, actually, SDRs are a marketing function. That's ideal if you have something like that. But if not, then you have to make friends there. And you have to work a lot on creating buy-in. Like half of our consulting is actually, at the beginning especially, is all about creating the buy-in. Not just, buy-in to get the budget, but also buy-in from the people who need to do it. Yeah, we can talk about that on another session.
It's a topic just so crucial for B2B marketers to understand that if they are not friends with sales, like if you produce the best leads in the world, but sales never picks up the phone, never answers the emails, do nothing, then all the value you create is basically worth nothing because you don't sign the contracts afterwards.
Another thing that you can do, which is kind of similar to deal expansion, but not, is contract renewals, right? So you have big deals again. Remember, we are talking about large deals. What do you do? Nobody wants to get that in an email just before the contract renewal saying, hey, sorry guys, we decided to switch the vendor or not to renew the contract. And the thing is, the truth is, unfortunately, a lot of people have this idea that no news is good news, right? But I read somewhere like an amazing statistic. I think it's like maybe even 90% of B2B buyers, B2B customers are not going to tell you anything. They're just going to churn. So if you don't have any proactive ways to be in contact with those customers, to proactively talk to them, get that information. So churn prevention is actually a huge one, especially for the large deals. So you need to spend some time doing that. So first of all, like I speak about, interviewing existing customers, etc. And this is actually something that I see very, very often whenever we start a consulting project and we speak to our clients and they say, we need to interview the customer. Well, this is like one of the first steps. And it's always like a big point of resistance. And it's always like amazes me, like, you don't have that kind of relationship. Shouldn't this be a big red flag that you're not able just to go and talk to them, right? The way that I like to think about it is, how can you embed customer interviews in your onboarding process, right?
Yeah.
So after a successful sale, you can talk to them about, obviously during sale, you're asking them about a bunch of questions, but after a successful sale, you can ask them about the buying process. Why did they choose you? One of the competitors, and a bunch of other questions. After the successful implementation, just that key moment when they're showing satisfaction, you can ask them about the results and, the before and after. So the after part, right? So you can get that information. You need to have some sort of regular check-in with them. If you don't have any other option, invite them to your podcast, to your market research, to whatever co-creation, to get that knowledge. Like, you need to absolutely do this, right? One way or another, you need to make sure that you have this opportunity. So you need to be asking them questions also about, obviously, the value they're getting, how they're using it, but also about the gaps, like what are they missing, but also like their key strategic initiatives. Like, of course, I don't know, whatever the process your tool is your solution is supporting, like in our case, maybe it's about marketing. Okay, what is next? What are their plans? How they're evolving? What, do they feel that our solution is going to support them also in future? And, often they might not know, might not just not be aware of, some of the use cases they can support. So this kind of information is like crucial. So this is the first thing you need to do. And then the rest, you can imagine a play, you can, again, create specific content to answer those questions. You can showcase, of course, the benefits. I think it's also, you can never over communicate about the value that you're creating for somebody, and we don't do that. We don't do that a lot. And I think that's just like communicating about, like, if you had the chance to talk to some of the people inside a company, again, power users, champions, decision makers, whomever you're able to get, showing, of course, the benefits and the value that you've already created. And then, of course, helping them realize how they can grow together with you, how you can help them achieve those, next milestones. How can you help them get more out of that solution? How can you help them close the gaps? Essentially, this is what you want to get at, is you want your contract to already be pre-sold before the time of renewal, and not just wait and get a bad surprise.
At least for us, I think 9 out of 10 companies are super bad at, communicating the value that you continuously create for your customers. Like, it's not something that we constantly tell people that, hey, we just saved you $10,000, we just saved you $20,000. And then the next question is, then how do you do it in a classy way? So it's not like writing an email, look at this insight, this saves you XYZ. So that's a task then to find out how to do it.
But the best way is, like, if you got, again, if you can do it in some sort of an interview in a way that is, very friendly, that is added value through some co-creation or some content. The best way is, of course, to let their people speak, right? So to let their people talk about it. And like you say, of course, you don't want to be like it's being counter, just saying, hey, by the way, saved you just yet another 10K, right? But there's many ways in which you can do this and just reinforce the value that you're creating, but also be not put your hand in the sand, right? You want to be also very proactive about potential gaps, things that are missing or otherwise could cause them to churn.
I think that's I got another thing I need to go do. But it's I really like it, Vlad. Okay, last one, Vlad, and then we'll let people go. What was that?
Okay. Anyhow, so it's about deal acceleration. So you have existing deals that need to be closed. So you want to help sales close more pipeline. And actually, I'll just give you an example of what will happen with us, right? So we were negotiating a deal, and like after a lot of conversations, we had an opportunity to present the proposal, and we presented the proposal, and they went silent. This is something that happens very often. So the deal was stalled stale, I don't know, whatever, like
Yeah.
slow down, frozen. and this happens very often, right? And so what we were doing, so I just stopped responding to my follow-ups, etc. In this very specific case, what Andre did is actually invited the CMO to our podcast and had a good chat with her, right? And at the end also asked like about what is really blocking. So again, you need a way, and you can do it in different ways. Sometimes what you can do is, people very often are very focused on one person in a company, right? Whomever they're talking to, or maybe the decision maker, and this is who they're trying to influence. But I mean, I recently had this happen. Like one of the deals was frozen. Like I unresponsive. Like I was like didn't know what was going on because everything seemed so good. But I knew. I mean, I knew, and of course, this is also what you want to proactively build the relationship with as many people, as many buyers as you can, and many of their colleagues as you can. So I was already connected and had good relationship with a bunch of people in the company. So one by one, I started following up with them until one of them responded. He said, by the way, our head of marketing was fired. So, we are just like, oh, and by the way, we were also acquired. So it was like things that are out of our control. Finally, we landed that deal. But so it's about proactively, again, engaging the buying committee and figuring out what the blocking points are. And then, again, preparing marketing assets, campaigns, actions, activities to basically answer that questions, address those objections that they might have. Like in one case with that CMO who Andre chatted with, they actually couldn't make a business case to their executive team, and I was like, I mean, people, we can help you make that business case, right? Okay, they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't know that was a problem, right? So now we make sure that we always create the business case, of course, right? But okay, it's a learning. But so we help them create a business case. We also reduce the scope to sell first a smaller thing, then
smart.
We use that smaller thing to get the buy-in for the bigger thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do, right? And yeah, in the other case, it was just getting that information. But marketing shouldn't stop when the lead is generated, even when the opportunity is generated. Actually, there's a lot of opportunity, especially when it comes to high deal value, to go on marketing, like you just did this very nice campaign yesterday, right?
I can just mention a few things that we've done here as well. So with Dreamdata, you can see on average how many contacts is on every deal that you win. And for us ourselves, when we sell, there's 5 people. So that means that the salesperson shouldn't be happy with having one person at a demo call, because you're only one person, 1 down and 4 to go. You need to continue to ask, is there more people in the buying committee? Is there more people who care about this? Who should we more be speaking to? Also, when, as you say, the deal goes a little bit silent, then you have multiple options to go to. And I think also I saw Gong put out some statistics about the likelihood of a deal closes increases up to a certain point as you add more stakeholders to it. And then maybe just the one advertising tip is also to, when you run your ads, then don't just run retargeting on the one person who were on your website. You need to reveal the IP, and then you need to run ads towards the whole company, or perhaps the right function or job title within that company. So you know that it's the whole buying committee who gets the ad, and not just the one individual browser who were on your website.
It's because if you already have deals in the pipeline, it's actually very easy to run ads because you know the company, so you can just run ads to those companies. You don't have to make it difficult. You don't have to even like necessarily select the roles. Even if you're running it across the company, that's also like, it can work really well. And what I think as well, it's like everybody should have this, but maybe it's worth saying, it's also you need to keep. So like every deal is an opportunity to learn like about the kind of questions, blocking points, the kind of questions that the buyers may have, the other buyers may have. Because if you're not like connecting to the whole buying committee, if you don't answer proactively the questions that maybe some of the other influencers or blockers in the company may have,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to go and ask you. I mean, you need to create content and whatever assets, tools, whatever you need to be able to proactively address those concerns. And this is also how we use content hubs. In the content hubs, you can have different assets for different buyers. So instead of just sending like, some information after a demo or a proposal, whatever you're sending, you can send all of these pieces of the puzzle and always like thinking, okay, how can I improve this? Like I said, like, oh shit, we should always include this business case. Or they have a question about, who from the team needs to be involved. Okay, so we need to make sure that we like very clearly answer that question the next time, not wait for it to be raised. And always, we are really obsessed about how can we always make this bottom of the funnel, as airtight as possible.
I really love that. I think about, or like the way I think about websites is that it should basically, any question that a customer might ask related to your company, you should at least give the new potential prospect an opportunity to find the answer on the website. They might not find it every time, but it should be there. So the work and conversations that the salespeople have can move along a lot faster because they can find the answers themselves through the website.
Yeah. There is no better prospect on your sales call than the one that completely knows what you're all about, is buying into your vision, knows exactly how you're different from your competitors. Like, they have done all the research, they know everything. It's just kind of the last check that they need to do, talking to. I mean, that's of course ideal. And you cannot have that if you're not proactively answering those questions, right?
No. Vlad, this has been absolutely awesome, and I have a long to-do list of stuff I need to go back and do now. So thanks for that. Is there any kind of summary, or like, what is the essential things that you think, you've already said a lot, but is there anything particularly you want people to take away from this conversation and your advices?
Yeah, I think first of all, think about, if you're thinking about ABM, don't think about just let's say lead generation, net new accounts. Think about what are the high priority goals for us. Where can we create value other than just there, right? Think about deal acceleration, pipeline or deal acceleration. Think about helping, increasing the win rates. Think about deal expansion, churn prevention. Think about different goals. Second, you see how much attention to detail or how much detail we put into each of those campaigns, because ABM is all about stacking the odds in your favor. And because again, you don't need a lot of clients, but you need the right clients. So you're not targeting a big market, you're targeting a narrow specific market. So you need to get your ROI is going to come from the fact that you're going to activate more of those, right? Less leads, more revenue is our slogan, right? So how do you do that? So by closing the loop, not just running that webinar, but also how do you follow up? How can you make it more personalized? Think about each of those steps from top of the funnel until the bottom of the funnel, and think about how can I actually improve that and get more out of each of those steps, right? And yeah, I think that these will be the two main takeaways out of these 5 plays that we shared today.
Wonderful. And where can people get in touch with you if they've seen that all?
Everybody's here on LinkedIn, right now. So I'm sure you somewhere see my profile. Just give me or Andre, my co-founder, a follow. We're also sharing content from fullfunnel.io.
Extremely good
page that you can find. So you can always find us on LinkedIn. You can always reach out. Whatever question you might have, always happy to chat. We also have Trenches, B2B marketing community, where we're engaging. We're there every day. So whatever way you want to reach out to us, go ahead and do it. But you're already on LinkedIn, so you know that we're here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vlad. And I wish you a really great day forward.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.